Again, good evening to everyone. Right. Yesterday, we had discussed around 43 questions, right? Previous questions that we have been discussing. So those who were not present yesterday can see the first video. Uh, right. So we are going to discuss, obviously, previous year questions with the focus on the last 10 to 12 years. And though the questions that we have been discussing and have been included in the discussions span around 30 years, right? So all these questions are conceptually very significant, right? And right. So let us discuss quickly. We had discussed this question number 43. We had discussed, right? The difference between FDI and, right, FIIs that we keep on hearing. Okay, so it says, let us discuss it. FII, I mean, this is something, it does not bring, this FDI brings better management skills and technology, right? FDI, not FII. Opposite has been written. FII helps in increasing the capital availability in general, while FDI only targets specific sectors. Yes, it improves capital availability, and this happens to be more unstable. FII, we have already since discussed, so there is no point. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, just look at the question, then we are going to discuss this. This is a very tricky question. One has to be very careful. If one does not have conceptual understanding, it would be very difficult to answer this question. Since we have already discussed current account in capital account, it says consider the following actions which is the government can take. Devaluing the domestic currency, we have already discussed devalue and depreciation, right? So when market forces in the stock, right, when the market forces, right, decide the value of a currency, so it is appreciation or depreciation, but devaluation is the official depreciation of the currency of a country. So it says which one of the above actions can help in reducing the current account. So if you're not aware that what are the major components of current account, you won't be able to answer it. So it says devaluing the domestic currency. Yes, this is something that the government can do. Reduction in export subsidy. Yes, this is something that could also be done. Here it is saying adopting suitable policies which attract better FDI and funds from FIIs. All this come under capital account, right? So these are the things that can be taken, and this will help, right? So to reduce the current account deficit. Getting the point? So right. So these are the major. This step cannot be taken. I mean, the government can take, but obviously this will help in capital account because these things are not involved in current account, right? So first and second, right? In current account, in capital account, we have already discussed in the class, right? So in current account, you know that yesterday we had discussed what are the things which come under the transaction of goods, services, and transfer payments. These are the three major things. And in capital account, the movement of assets, right? So let us see the next question. It says a country is said to be in debt trap if right? It says a country is said to be in debt trap. How will you know that a country is in debt trap? It has to abide by the conditionalities imposed by the IMF. I mean, obviously, I mean, when economic reforms started, India had to abide by certain conditionalities, and it still follows. But it does not let us see all the options. It has to borrow to make interest payments on outstanding loans. I mean, all countries have got their loans, but if it has to just borrow to make interest payments, that is a very precarious situation for a country. It's a very difficult situation that even you are not able to cover your interest payment, not to speak of the outstanding loan, right? It has been refused loans or abided by or aid by creditors abroad. No, that is not. I mean, the World Bank charges a very high rate of interest on outstanding as well as new loans. I mean, the best option is that this is considered to be debt trap. The country is absolutely in debt trap because even it is not able to, right, pay its interest rates, not to speak of the outstanding loan. So this has to be kept in mind. So option second is the appropriate one. Now let us see the next question. Okay. It says full convertibility of the rupee may mean. Full convertibility we have discussed. I had also explained in yesterday's session, right? And apart from in the class. So full convertibility, we have what? We have two types of convertibility, current account convertibility and capital account convertibility. India follows which kind of full convertibility? Current account convertibility. Right, after economic reforms, India opted for because it was one of the conditionalities of IMF, right? So when it proposed the bailout package, so obviously India follows. So immediately it allowed current account convertibility, but India does not follow full capital account convertibility. Here it is talking about rupee convertibility, full convertibility of the rupee, right? So here it is not talking about current or capital, right? It's free float with other international currencies. Yes, it happens. It's direct exchange with any other international currency at any prescribed place inside and outside the country. That's good. It acts like it acts just like any other international currency. No, it is not necessary. Because international currencies are hard currencies, and we had discussed yesterday what are the major ones. We have a basket of 5 international currencies, right? International currencies are easily used, sought after for the trade and commerce purposes, right? So it is not necessary that it will become international currency if full convertibility is allowed, right? So first and second, so obviously the option would be A. Okay. Now, you see, again, the capital account convertibility of the Indian rupee implies now, if any candidate who does not have conceptual understanding will not be able to answer this question. It says that the capital account convertibility of the Indian rupee implies capital account. We have already understood that this talks about the convertibility of capital, right? Capital, right? While current account deals with goods, services, and transfer payments. Getting the point? So let us see the first option, that the Indian rupee can be exchanged by any authorized dealers for Travel comes under services sector. Getting the point? So obviously services comes under, so obviously it cannot come under capital account, it will come under current account. Second, that the Indian rupee can be exchanged for any major currency for the purpose of trade in goods and services. You see, trade in goods and services and transfer payments come under current account. Getting the point? Now, it says that the Indian rupee can be exchanged for any major currency for the purpose of trading financial assets. Yes, this can be done because capital account deals with capital, right? Assets. Capital means it talks about assets. Assets means financial assets. And we have discussed like FII, FDI, borrowing, lending, all these things, FPI, right? So all these things. So this option C is the suitable one. Let us move on to the next question. Now, here it is a very fundamental question. Do you remember that when India faced BOP crisis, economic reforms in 1991 started following BOP crisis? India was on the verge of bankruptcy. So which institution it approached? So the main function of the IMF is to arrange international deposits from banks. No, it's not. Here it is talking about the main function. I mean, Bretton Woods twins. You must be aware about the concept of Bretton Woods twins. We have discussed in the class. So two institutions were set up, IMF and World Bank. World Bank is popularly known as Bank of Reconstruction. International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, right? Though, I mean, it has got many arms, right? So IMF is for the financial stability. So obviously, it helps to solve balance of payments, BOP problems. That's the reason when India faced BOP crisis. So obviously it approached IMF. It did not approach World Bank. World Bank was basically set up for the reconstruction purpose of, right, Europe. Because of the First and Second World War, especially Second World War, it had destroyed. This war destroyed Europe. So this World Bank was set up initially, right? Later on, its mandate increased significantly. So IMF act as a private sector lending from the, no. It is not a private sector of lending arm of World Bank, no. Finance investment loans to developing, finance investment loans, no. So we have this one, B. Let us see the next question. Devaluation of currency means. Now, devalue. Right? We have discussed yesterday, we had discussed depreciation, depreciate, and appreciate. Appreciate means when appreciation happens in a currency, its value goes down or up. Its value goes up, right? And just opposite happens to be depreciation, right? And devaluation is the official depreciation. When government itself comes forward to decrease the value of its currency. So this phenomenon, this act is known as devaluation, and India has done from time to time, right? And when devaluation happens, so what are the major effects? Obviously, your exports become competitive, cheaper. Getting the point? So obviously, the demand for your products goes up significantly, and that helps earning foreign exchange for the country, obviously. So it says reduction in the value of a currency with internationally traded currencies. This sounds very good. Permitting the currency to seek its worth in the international market. It is foreign exchange, right, market. But here we are talking about devaluation. Devaluation is intentional degrading in the value of currency. Here you're not allowing the currency to find its value. Here intentionally the government is decreasing the value. So it cannot be the case. Right, fixing the value of currency in conjunction with movement in the value of basket of no, it is not. Fixing the value of currency in multilateral consultation with the IMF, no, you don't go, because they will not allow it. Right, so the first one happens to be the answer. Okay. Now it says in India, which of the following can be considered as public investment in agriculture? Remember, it is saying public investment, something which is beneficial. And we have discussed in the class, and also yesterday in the session I had discussed, there are three, three boxes. In terms of WTO, we had discussed green box, amber box, and blue box. Three boxes. So in green box, it entails all those subsidies, all the programs, financial support, which are considered to be not distorting the prices of agricultural produce at the international market, right? So it is allowed. In blue box, there are certain restrictions, but in amber box, there are certain help which are restricted. And MSP, I had discussed that how farmers are protesting not only in country but also in developed countries too, right? So MSP, this is something which is not considered to be, it is considered to be in red zone, right? This won't be considered to be investment, because providing financial support and fixed minimum support price is considered to be distorting at the international market. Computerization of primary agricultural credit societies, yes, it can be, because it is indirectly helping so that the functioning of these credit societies could improve, and in which in turn it will help the farming community. Okay, good evening. Good evening, Jaya, Guria, good evening, right? Good evening to all the candidates who are online, right? And those who were not present yesterday could see the first video also, because that will also greatly help you, I'm pretty sure. Okay, and if you have any doubts, just let me know in the comment box so that accordingly I could respond. Okay, so obviously it talks about the public investment, and public investment is considered to be kind of investment which helps in the broader functioning, in the better utilization of the abilities of the existing institutions, right? So computerization of primary agricultural societies, then social capital development, right? Here free electricity supplied to farmers, this won't be the case, because if you apply, provide free electricity supply at the international level, it is said that you are cross subsidizing your agricultural products. So it is not, it is considered to be distorting in nature, trade distorting in nature. So it is not considered. Waiver of agricultural loans by the banking system, again this is not allowed. All these things are considered, all these three things especially, right? are put in amber box. Amber box means that is considered to be that it's a signal that you have to reduce. And we have already discussed yesterday, and also we had discussed at great length in the class that certain restrictions have been put in by WTO for developing and developed economies. For developed economies, they can only extend subsidy up to 5% of their agricultural produce, of the value of agricultural produce, while in the case of developing countries it is up to 10%, right? So setting up of cold storage facilities by the governments, yes, this could be considered to be an investment. So what could be 2, 3 and 6, right? So here we have C option. Okay, now see this. Sometimes there are certain questions that you don't need to know the answer, but through basic common sense you can apply and solve it. Okay. It says under the Kisan Credit Card Scheme, short-term credit support is given to farmers for which of the following purposes? Listen, this question gives you certain hints. It says Kisan Credit Card Scheme. In itself, it tells you that it is a short-term credit support. Short-term. Right, given to farmers for which of the following purposes? Working capital for maintenance of farm assets. Working capital, so that you could maintain farm assets. Yes, because this in itself shows that a small amount is released, not a very large amount, because if large amount is released, obviously generally it cannot be of short term in nature, right? It would be a very long term. So short term, small amount of money is released. Working capital for maintenance of farm assets, purchase of combined harvesters, tractors and mini trucks. Like this cannot be possible because these are very expensive agricultural instruments, machines, right? Consumption requirement of the farm households, yes, a very small amount could work. Post-harvest expenses, yes, post-harvest expenses could be thought. Now, construction of family house and setting up of a small of village cold storage facilities. Obviously, these two things cannot be because this Kisan Credit Card Scheme provides a very small amount. So obviously, these two things cannot be purchased or cannot be invested because it is such a small amount, so it would be of not much use. Okay, so wherever you find that this second and 5 options is included, just cut down 1, A, C, and D could also be cut down. We call it the concept of the theory of elimination. Sometimes when you are not sure, so start cutting all the wrong options. So if you find, if you are sure that this particular option cannot be the correct option, right? So in whichever option you find inclusion of that option, just cut it. So 5 cannot be, second cannot be, and you see only the option B is left where these two options are not included. So obviously working capital for maintenance of farm assets could be, then consumption requirement of the farm, consumption requirement. So a lot of amount is not required, right? Post harvest expenses, yes, it could be. So first 3 and 4, right? So B option would be the correct one. Okay. Let us see the next question. FRP. The fair and remunerative prices of sugarcane is approved by You see, we have two types of policies: MSP, minimum support price, MSP, and there is another one, FRP, fair and remunerative prices. FRP is first, it is for sugar cane only, and in MSP there are 22, right? There are oil seeds, pulses, wheat, rice. These are major, right? Yes, seeds, pulses, food grains, right? So are included. So in this, right? So now there are two, and MSP and FRPs are, there are two terms: recommendation and approved. Recommendation and approval, there are two things. A committee recommends, getting the point, and while a particular committee approves, approval, gives approval means the final authority. So the question could be manipulated. Sometimes it could be asked that FRP is announced for which, right? For which crop? So obviously sugarcane, you must be knowing. And MSP, I mean, so it says Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, Commission for Agriculture, Cost and Prices, Directorate of Marketing and Inspection, Ministry of Agriculture, Agricultural Produce Market Committee. APMCs are agricultural produce. APMCs are basically, they come under states. There are thousands of APMCs. In each state, they come under the state governments, right? So now they have added some Ministry of Agriculture, right? Again, it becomes, since all these things are related with agriculture, so it could be very confusing. So APMCs are basically, these are state-based committees. There are thousands of, around 1500 something APMCs are there. Now, this cabinet CCEA, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. This committee is headed by PM, right? And in the case of MSP and FRP, this is the committee which gives approval, because Prime Minister is the final authority. So this CCEA happens to be the final approval authority. And now, as I was discussing, there are CACP, Commission for Agriculture and Cost and Prices, CACP. This is an attache. This comes under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, right? So CACP is part. It's a particular committee, and it has been designed to know, to decide, to recommend the MSP and FRP, so that farming could be a productive, I mean, it could be a remunerative profession. So this committee, CACP, basically recommends. It analyzes on various parameters and recommends that what should be the MSP and FRP, right? And this one happens to be the last. And after recommendation, this CCEA finally approves it. And when it is approved, then it is implemented. So you can understand it. Okay. So now we have already covered which ones? 52 questions we had discussed. Getting the point? Now we are moving to the next set of questions, right? And See these questions. These are again a set of questions covering inflation, banking, money and banking. Financial market of the country, right? So, the year has not been perhaps mentioned, but it was asked perhaps in 2020. Okay, sorry. Yes, in the same color it has been written, right? Okay, so just consider this question. This question relates with money and banking. Getting the point? So, you can see it. It says in the post-pandemic recent past, many central banks worldwide had carried out interest rate hike. Why do they hike interest rate? Because when there is a sudden demand for goods and services, so their price increases. The central bank generally assumes that it can counteract the rising consumer prices via monetary policy means. Monetary policy, we know that fiscal policy, monetary policy, fiscal policy is done by government, especially by Ministry of Finance. While monetary policy is managed by the highest authority, happens to be central bank of a country, and in India it is RBI. Getting the point? So the central bank generally assumes that it can counteract the rising consumer prices by monetary policy means. Yes. So this was the case that, if you could remember, this question has been asked in 2023. So immediately after, once the market started opening, so there was a huge surge in demand for goods and services. Right. And obviously, so these are the steps were taken. So rate of interest were increased. So what could be? Both statement 1 and second are correct. Yes. And second is the correct explanation of for statement 1. In 2023, the type of questions were asked. Many students got very nervous. That what type of questions they are asking. Right. So, okay. So this is a correct statement. So what would be? Obviously, it would be A. Both the statement A and statement are correct, and the statement is the correct explanation. What is it saying? Both the statement 1 and statement second are correct, and statement second is okay. Both the statement 1 and is not. Sorry, I could not see the not. I thought that both, how could be the both statement same? Statement 1 is correct, but the statement no, right? So I mean, all these options are incorrect because we can see the logical, right? So I mean, do you see that this type of question checks two things? First, your conceptual understanding. This one tests your conceptual understanding. You don't know that who is the authority. So obviously, and this one shows your awareness of current affairs. If you had no idea that yes, central banks across the world had increased, so that is something that through these sessions we have been emphasizing, that you should have a broader, deeper understanding of all the conceptual points, and then supplemented by your knowledge of current affairs. So it's a combination of both. It's a classic example. Let's move on to the next question. In monetary policy, we have discussed about the concept of sterilization. Sterilization is a kind of killing germs, right? I'm very happy that online students, Gudia, yes, you have been trying. That's good. Yes. Now let us see this question. Which one of the following activities of the RBI is considered to be part of sterilization? Sterilization is an effort, right? So, which it tries to remove the imbalances of money supply. Because you know that when money supply increases, what happens? The interest rate has to be increased, right? Interest rate, inflation goes up, so obviously it will create a lot of problems for the common people, right? So, I mean, conducting open market operations, when money supply increases in a market, when money supply goes up, so when it puts pressure on the system, right? So the government has to suck out the excess money supply in the market. Otherwise, the prices of the inflation rate will go up significantly, right? So that's how it is. And when it goes down, then government has to take a steps to release required amount of money supply in the system. So the thumb rule is that there should not be excess money supply and there should not be less money supply in the market, right? So whenever there is an excess, so which one of the following activities of RBI is considered to be part of a sterilization? Open market operations. Open market operations through which, though there are a number of steps, we have CRR, SLR, repo rate, reverse repo rate. There are various measures taken by central bank of the country to sterilize. Open market operations happens to OMO, happens to be one of the important options, in which what happens? When money supply goes up in the market, so what does RBI do? It sells. It will sell government securities, and when it will sell, people will buy, and when people will buy it, so excess money supply will be sucked out of the system from the hands of people. The excess amount would be taken away. So the money supply will come down significantly, right? So equilibrium will be reached. It happens. And when it goes down, then obviously the government, the RBI will do the opposite, right? So open market operations happens to be, we have discussed all these things in the class of money and banking, right? Open market operations happens to be one of the major instruments of monetary policy of RBI. Okay, let's move on. Here it comes from the financial market. It says, it has been asked again in 2023. How many of the above are included in the capital markets? You know that capital markets and money market. We have two: money market and capital markets. Both this, money market is for short term, and capital market happens to be for the long term market. And both are the subcomponents of financial market of the country. All right. So here government bond market happens to be long term in nature. And stock market also happens to be capital market. Right? We have discussed already all these things. Money market, call money market, it's a very short period, for a very short period of time. Call money market, if some banks are having some cash liquidity issue, so immediately they can call and borrow certain money from other banks. So it is a interbank borrowing and lending process, right? So treasury bill market, it is also comes under short term. Treasury bill market also comes, right? So obviously they both this will come under money market, and government bond and the stock market come under capital market. So obviously we have only two. Okay. Yes, frequently questions have been asked on triple B. You see, the governor of the RBI is the chairman of this with reference to the bank's board bureau. Since this relates with banks, so it sounds like, okay, RBI governor will be the head. That is not the case, right? Its head is nominated by the central government. So this one, it is not the case. Governor of the RBI is not the chairman of triple B. Getting the point? Remember it. Since this question relates with the banking sector, so intentionally it has been given, and this comes under the category of deceptive option. So it won't be the case. Triple B recommends for the selection of head of PSBs, public sector banks. This is absolutely correct. For that purpose, it has been set up. Right? There is a committee and which recommends that who should head this public sector banks. Right? This helps the public sector banks in developing strategies and capital raising plans. This is also correct. Right? But its head is not governor of RBI. Right? So, second and third, it would be B. Okay. Here, with reference to convertible bonds, consider the following statements. In the capital market, we had discussed convertible bonds. Convertible bonds are what? I mean, convertible, something which can be converted into equities. So there are bonds that can be converted into equities. As the very name signifies, convertible, something that is able to be converted. Right? So bonds which can be converted. Remember, those who invest in bonds are known as creditors. And those who invest in equity or in stocks, they are known as owners, investors. These are bond holders are known as creditors. Getting the point? So, as there is an option to exchange the bond for equity, convertible bonds pay a lower rate of interest. That's the reason this is flexible. So this is flexible. So obviously it pays a lower rate of interest. That is correct. As there is an option to exchange the bond for equity. Right. So obviously equity means stocks. Right. There are certain differences that we have discussed in the class. There are differences between shares, stock, and equity. Right? There are differences. In the class, I had discussed it in great details. Right? So, equity is a certain percentage that you own in a particular company. Right? Right. The option to convert to equity affords the bondholder a degree of indexation to rising consumer prices. Indexation, you understand? It's a kind of protection, right? The option to convert to equity affords the bondholder a degree of indexation to rising consumer prices. It is not necessary. It is not necessary, right? So the option to convert to equity affords the bondholder, I mean, what happens? I mean, a degree of indexation to rising consumer prices. I mean, it could be the both ways. I mean, generally, it is believed that the option to convert to equity affords the bondholder. I mean, equities are generally believed that they provide you protection against rising interest rates. It is believed, but it is not necessary. The option to convert to equity affords the bondholder a degree of indexation to rising consumer prices, right? Though it is believed that it provides. So which of the following statements given above are correct, right? What could be? I mean, there are certain there are inflation index bonds. Inflation indexed bonds. So they provide you protection against the rising prices, against the rising inflation. Here it is not. I mean, we invest, but if we find that yes, we want to convert in, then we can convert it. But it does not provide, right? So inflation index bonds, they provide it. Protection against inflation. This does not necessarily makes it. Though it is believed that equity affords the bondholder, right? I mean, equity can be, generally it is believed. What should I say? Generally, equity, it is believed that equity provides you protection. So we can assume, because generally average return happens to be 12 to 13%, and general inflation rate happens to be around, in India, the average goes around, we know that, what is it? 4% plus minus 2% according to MPC. So on an average, generally 5 to 6% inflation remains. So we can say that yes, it provides, right? So we can say that C could be the correct option, right? If it says necessarily, then it would become very difficult to answer, right? So it is believed that index, right? This equity provides you protection against rising, and that's the reason people are running away from investing in, keeping in this banks to stock market. So equity, generally it is believed that it provides you protection. Generally, I'm using the word. If it had been written necessarily, then it would have become difficult, right? That's the reason people are investing their money in stock market. Okay, now are you getting the point? It says, with reference to the Indian economy, consider the following statements. It says, if the inflation is too high, what is inflation? Increase in the money supply, generally, for a simple purpose. Though we have know that if there is an average increase in the prices of most of the goods and services in a given period of time, right? If the inflation is too high, It means money supply is already high. People are running to buy goods and services. RBI is likely to buy government securities. So if government will buy government securities, so it means government will pay in the form of cash or whatever, in the form of currency to consumers. So it will further increase inflation. It should do the opposite because the money supply is high. So if government buys government securities, it will further increase the money supply in the market. So opposite, it should sell rather, not buy. Right? So this is incorrect. If the rupee is rapidly depreciating, why something depreciates? Because of the availability of something. If there is abundance of something, what happens? When something becomes scarce, so its value goes up or down. When something becomes very scarce, why diamond is so expensive? Because it is available easily? No. If it, what is diamond? A piece of a stone? It's a rare piece of a stone. So is the stone more expensive? No. Why gold is so expensive? Because it is rare. So when something becomes scarce, its value goes up. And when it is easily available, so it becomes cheaper. Getting the point? So the same rule applies over here. If the rupee is rapidly depreciating, depreciating means it is easily available. That's the reason its value is going down. RBI is likely to sell dollars in the market. It means if Indian rupee is depreciating, it means the value of dollar is appreciating. So how RBI will control it? It will increase the supply of dollars so that the prices of dollars will come down slightly. Right? So it will sell because RBI, the central bank, keeps reserves of many currencies. So whenever a currency appreciates a lot, so the RBI, the central bank, tends to release it because how the value of currency is decided in the stock in the exchange market on depend of demand and supply, right? The rule of demand and supply. So obviously likely to sell dollars in the market. Yes, this is correct. If the interest rates in the USA or European Union were to fall, that is likely to induce RBI to buy dollars. Yes. If the value of something goes down, so immediately what does the central bank do? It buys it because it knows that in the days to come, if it will increase. Right? That's the reason they hold it, the reserves. Because there are hard currencies that we have been discussing. There are hard currencies which are very sought after in the international market for trade and commerce, right? So this is absolutely correct. Right. So second and third. So second and third would be B. Now you see inflation index bonds that I was discussing. Here they provide you protection. It is certain. Because bonds generally provide a very thin rate of margin returns. They are for long-term process. If equities are not paying enough interest, so people move on to bonds. Right. Getting the point? is inflation indexed bonds, IIBs. Inflation indexed bonds. This provide you sure protection against the rising interest rates. Right? What do we do? If banks provide us generally 7% to 8%, right? Suppose why people prefer to invest their money in a stock market or other inflation index bonds. So what happens if banks provide you deposit rates generally how much? Suppose 8%. And average inflation in India happens to be around 6%. Though it keeps on fluctuating, but on an average, it remains in the range of 5 to 6%. Right? So in reality, how much you are getting by investing in banks? You are getting just 2%. But people who are investing in a stock market generally tend to get around, on an average, 12 to 13%. So if you reduce 6% out of it, around 6 to 7%, they gain. Are you getting the point? That's the reason new generation people are putting their money in a stock market. Though it could be risky also, because sometimes when a stock markets crash down, what will happen? Your money could also be wiped out. It will also become nothing. So there remains risk. So you have to make your own research, learn trading. Otherwise, just people following blindly on the basis of watching YouTube, when they start investing and they find that their lakhs of rupees has gone to nothing. At least there would be your capital amount, your the money principal amount will not go to waste in banks. Right? At least they will provide 1 or 2%. Right? So one has to be very careful, otherwise it will create a lot of problems. Okay. So what it says, so government can reduce the coupon rates on its borrowing by way of, with reference to Indian economy, what are the advantages of inflation index bonds? Government can reduce the coupon rates. Coupon rates, I mean, they do not pay interest. Right? Coupon rates are just, there is a face value. Right? So if there is one stock and on the face value is rupees 100, so government issues at rupees to 80, or it could release in the market at 85 rupees. So the government does not pay interest. It issues at the coupon rates, zero coupon rates. Right? So coupon rates. So government can reduce the coupon rates on its borrowing by way of IIBs. Reduce means if it is 80, so it can do 75. So at the maturity, the investor will get rupees 100, which has been printed on which is its face value. Right? So coupon rates are generally issued at, right, discounted rates. Now, IIBs provide protection to the investor from uncertainty regarding inflation. Yes, because that's how it is. Inflation indexed bonds, they provide protection. Right? So if inflation rate is 6%, and earlier they were paying 6%, so it will increase to 7% or 8%. It will keep on increasing with the increase in the inflation, so that the principal amount of the investor is not eroded. In fact, it also increases in the long term. Right? So the interest received as well as capital gains on IIBs are not taxable. Yes, they are taxable. Right? I mean, the interest that you receive. Suppose you earn interest on your investment and there is appreciation in the value of the principal amount that you have invested in IIBs. So obviously that is taxable. Right? So it is saying it is not taxable. So it is incorrect. So this first and second, both options are correct. So 1 and 2, it means A option would be correct option. Let's move on to the next. This is a very conceptual question. In India, which one of the following is responsible for maintaining price stability by controlling inflation? Price stability? It comes under the monetary policy. The objective of monetary policy of a country is to control inflation, at the same time maintain the economic growth of the country. So Department of Consumer Affairs, no. Expenditure Management Commission, no. Financial Stability and Development, they have given, it is as simple as that, it's RBI. In India it happens to be. All right. Next move. Which one of the following is likely to be the most inflationary in effects? Inflationary, you know, when inflation increases, the value of money goes down. Right, getting the point. The value of money goes down. Right. So, which one of the following is likely to be the most inflationary in its effects? Right. Repayment of public debt, borrowing from the public to finance budget deficit. Obviously, when you borrow from the public, so inflation in fact, no. Inflation will come down. Borrowing from the banks to finance borrowing from the banks, obviously you suck from the system. So money supply will come down. Creation of new money to finance a budget deficit. Creation of new money. That is the most inflationary in nature. Have you seen this web series, Money Heist? In which some robbers, they claim that these governments rob people. So if we are robbing, so what is the harm in it? So what do? They print lots and lots of money and run away with full of bags. Right. Earlier government used on a very first instance at the top of the hat rather, they would print money because they have got machines at home. I mean, it is under the RBI. So they keep on printing. They can print whenever they need. But now it does not happen because there are certain regulations. Right? So earlier it used to be the case. So creation of new money to finance a budget deficit is considered to be the most inflationary because common people used to suffer a lot because they do not have a machine of printing money. So they suffer the most. Because inflation increases. So normally people have fixed income. So they are managing day-to-day expenses of the house becomes extremely difficult. Everything, the prices of everything will increase. And somebody who is earning 10,000 rupees, it is not that the next month he will start earning 12,000 rupees. Except for a few people, the income of majority of the people remain fixed. Right? If somebody is earning 30,000 rupees, so every month almost, at least in short term, his salary remains the same. Right? So it creates. So D option would be the correct. Now you see, there are three options. The governor of the RBI is appointed by the central government. This is correct. Yes. It says certain provisions in the Constitution of India give the central government the right to issue directions to the RBI in public interest. Right? Actually, uh, the position of RBI governor is he or she has been given a lot of protection against the undue pressure of the government, because government happens to be the representative of people. So under emotions, they could be swayed. So that's the reason this fiscal policy and monetary policy have been bifurcated. Getting the point? There are certain actions, suppose demolition of certain colonies. So, I mean, when it remains under the control of government, so there could be pressure on government. But they say that no, this direction has been issued by Honorable High Court or Supreme Court. So bifurcation of duties. To say that what we can do, since this order has come from High Court or Supreme Court, so we are helpless. Right? In the same way, monetary policy and fiscal policy have been bifurcated. Getting the point? So this happens, so it cannot give. It has to consult with the governor of the RBI. So this is not correct. The governor of the RBI draws his power from the RBI Act. Yes. So first and third. See, right? Now it says that in India, the central bank's function is as the lender of the last resort. The lender of the last resort means when you do not have any other option. So central bank is, as the very name signifies, central bank. It is the banker of the bank. It is the banker of the banks, right? So obviously, lending to trade and industry bodies, no, RBI does not lend them. Providing liquidity to the banks having a temporary crisis, yes. When they do not have access to money anywhere else, so at the last resort, they approach RBI. Lending to governments to finance budgetary deficits. I mean, RBI lends them, but directly they do not. There are certain measures. So here at the last resort means this one justifies, right? B. Okay. Now, let us see. It says with reference to Indian economy, demand pull inflation. We have two major types of demand pull and cost push. Cost push, when the prices of inputs increases. So in aggregate terms, it gets reflected in the prices of goods and services. While in demand pull inflation, when the purchasing power, when money supply increases in the system, so it leads to demand pull, right? When people demand more and more goods. Why? Because they have got money in their hands. When people get money in their hands, what do they do? What do you do when you get money? You keep with your own self? No. We all have lots and lots of suppressed demands. That's the reason when people imagine that, okay, when I'll get job, I will earn this much amount of money, I will buy this, I will buy that, I will do this, I will do that. Yes or no? Getting the point? So that is demand pull inflation. So when you get money, you immediately rush to the market. So you create demand. And when many people rush to the market, obviously the prices will, because goods and services are limited or unlimited, are limited. Resources are limited, right? So with reference to Indian economy, demand pull inflation can be caused, increased by which of the following? Expansionary policies. Government invests money, expands, increases its expenditure. So expansionary policies, right? Fiscal stimulus, obviously, it will help to further higher purchasing power. Getting the point? Higher purchasing power, again, then I will give the example. If you have got higher purchasing power, then you will rush to the market, right? Rising interest will do the opposite. Inflation indexing wages will not help much, right? So 1, 2, and 4. So it would be A option. Now, you see, Indian government bond yields are influenced by which of the following? Action of the United States Federal Reserve, the central bank of USA. Obviously, that's the reason investors will start moving towards. Right? Why investors come to developing countries like India? Because here the money is scarce. So the interest rates are higher. That's the reason foreign capital move to developing countries, right? And the interest that they earn in USA, they will earn 3%. Here in India, easily they can earn 7 to 8%. If suppose you have money, you have 1 lakh rupee, and I'm giving you options. 3% you will get, 6% you will get. I mean, though there are a number of varieties. So in developed countries, 2%, 3%, where will you put your money? You are foreign, you are investor, live this foreign or local. Where will you invest? Obviously at these places. Why? Because these developed countries are already flooded with money. They have a lot of capital. And whenever any country increases its rate, like you are giving 6%, if they increase it at 4%, immediately this investors run to this place. Now the question again will be arise that why still there is a gap of 2%? This is because that these developed economies are considered to be more trustworthy. Their markets are very advanced, well developed, are well regulated. In developing countries, there remains some uncertainty. Getting the point? There could be some manipulations. So there remains some risk. Risk is involved. Right? There are, have you heard this Ponzi schemes? Some people say that, okay, in 2 years, your money will get multiplied. Some say that within 2 months, within 6 months. Right? And people are swayed. Right? So there remains risk. Wherever there are high chances of growth, there could be high range of risks too. Right? So that's the reason. So what happens? Are influenced by which of? Obviously, actions of the United States Federal Reserve, yes. Action of the RBI, the kind of steps that you take obviously affects the kind of earning, and inflation and short-term interest rates. Right? If other areas are paying much more interest, so people will move their money and shift to the other ones. Getting the point? So obviously all these actions, 3 actions will affect it. So 1, 2, 3. That is D. It says consider the following. Which of the above can be included in FDI? FDI happens to be generally much sought after than FIIs, right? FIIs happens to be unstable. We have already discussed in the in a question, right? Foreign currency convertible bonds. Yes, this come under FDI because these convertible bonds happen to be long term in nature. So, right, they come under foreign institutional investment with certain conditions. Yes, at least if you invest at least 10% with certain conditions. Yes, so FDI can come. If you make investment in some place, at least of the total wealth of 10% of total share value of 10%, so it can be with certain conditions. Global depository receipts, this also comes under FDI, right? Non-resident external deposits, this non-NRIs, what do? They put their money in rupees. It's a rupee denominated, so it's not, right? This does not come under FDI. So this 3 all comes with FDI. So we have A. I mean, there was we have discussed that there was a Mayaram committee. Do you remember? We had discussed in the class that Mayaram committee had recommended at least 10% investment. Even if it happens to be in the form of FIIs, it could be converted into FDI if it is of 10%. Okay. Let us see this question. Now, you see the weightage of food in consumer, CPI, consumer price index, right? So the weightage in CPI, the weightage of food articles, food and beverages remains the highest, right? Than in wholesale, WPI. In WPI, what is the highest weightage to given? Manufactured goods, manufactured products. Manufactured goods have the highest weightage, while in CPI, it is the highest weightage is given to food and beverages, food products. The WPI does not capture changes in the prices of services. This is absolutely correct. While CPI does. CPI includes both goods and services. Goods and services. While wholesale WPI, wholesale price index, captures only changes in the prices of goods on a wholesale rate, at a wholesale rate. While CPI, consumer price index, at retail price. Right? And now RBI has now adopted WPI as its key measure of inflation and to decide on changing the key policy rates. No. From 2014, there was a committee under, right, Urjit Patel, and it had recommended that CPI should be, right, adopted in place of WPI. Why? Because common people do not buy goods and services at wholesale rate. They buy it at retail rate. Getting the point? So, so this one, Okay, so first and second, these are correct. This one is incorrect. So what it would be? A. This is interesting question. And if you have money supply concept, if your concept of money supply, that is stock of money supply, is clear, you will be able to stock of. It says if you withdraw rupees 1 lakh in cash from your demand deposit account at your bank, the immediate effect on aggregate means total money supply in the economy, will be to be reduced it by rupees 1 lakh, to increase it by rupees 1 lakh, to increase it by more than 1 lakh, to leave it unchanged. Eh? Now you need to understand. People will think that, okay, somebody has taken out money from his or her account. It says, right, from your demand deposits. We have two major types of accounts: demand deposit account and, right, we have time deposit, right? So so what happens? So this money that you keep in money supply, which is kept in the, which is part of the economy, money which is kept in the economy, be it in banks, because banks, all the banks, they hold it, and the money that you keep in your hand, that is also in the economic system. So it is part of the stock of money supply, the money that you, that is part of the economy system, economic system in banks. They are part of the money supply. So there won't be any change, right? There won't be any change, because earlier, if you had put your money, if your money was in the banking, right? So it was obviously in the financial system, demand deposit, right? And you had taken it out, so obviously it is still in the financial system, in the economic system, so it will leave it unchanged. Remember it, right? We will discuss the concept of money supply. There are certain things that we will discuss. Okay. Now, here let us understand. It says, what does it say? It says, with reference to the Indian economy, consider the following statements. Commercial paper is a short-term unsecured promissory note. Commercial papers are issued by certain corporations. We have discussed all these things, right? In money market, right? In the financial market, we had discussed money market and capital market, right? So commercial papers. Okay. Right, this is correct. Certificate of deposit is a long-term instrument. No, it's a short-term. Certificate of deposit we have discussed, right? Call money, a few minutes ago we had discussed. Short-term, it's a used by interbank transactions. That some banks demand money by calling their colleagues, and they get it. So it's an interbank, right? So call money. So this one is also correct. Zero coupon bonds are coupon bonds that I was discussing. Zero coupon bonds. They do not pay. Zero means they do not pay any interest. They are issued at subsidized rates. Right? And at the maturity, you get the face value. So if any bond is issued at rupees 100, its face value is rupees 100. So it is issued at rupees generally 80. Only then the investor can earn some money, because this zero coupon rates do not give any interest. Right? So they will buy at rupees 80, and after a certain duration of their maturity, they get from the government 100. Right? So zero coupon bonds are the interest bearing short term bonds issued by the, they are not interest bearing. That's why they are known as zero coupon bonds. Right? So 1 and 3. Okay, so C. Now, you see, again, we have discussed repo rate, reverse repo rate, bank rate, SLR, CRR, all these things, right? Marginal standing facility rate, all these things we have already discussed. Now it says if the RBI decides to adopt an expansionist monetary policy. Expansionist monetary policy, it means it wants to expand the money supply. Right? Expansionist monetary policy, it means it wants to expand the money supply. Now, so what would it do? It says, which of the following would it not do? Remember this, not do. So cut and optimize the SLR, right? It will, it will do, because if it wants, then it will do. If you cut the SLR, what is SLR? The amount of money that banks are supposed to keep with themselves. In CRR, they are supposed to keep with RBI, the central bank, right? So they will cut down. When they will cut down the SLR, they will have larger amount of money to pay. So that will do. It says not do, right? Cut the bank rate and repo rate. When you cut down bank rate and repo rate, it will become cheaper to lend, right? So that it would not do. Because it is adopting an expansionist policy. So it would do. Here, increase the marginal standing facility rate. This is the rate when you will increase it. So it will become, the lending will become more expensive. Right? When you increase the rate, so the lending will become naturally expensive. And when it becomes expensive, so obviously it will hurt this expansionist monetary policy. Right? So here it should decrease, not increase. So this will not do. So what it would be? The option B. Getting the point? There are certain things that unless you understand as CRR, SLR, right? Repo rate, reverse repo rate, with open market operations, these are the various measures through which money supply is increased and money supply is decreased, right? So let us see this question. It's a very popular and frequently heard terminology. Which of the following is issued by the registered foreign portfolio investors to overseas investors who want to be part of Indian stock market without registering themselves directly? No. P notes. We keep on hearing P notes, participatory notes. Right? What are participatory notes? Those investors who do not want to become, because foreign investors, if you are a foreign investors, you cannot directly invest in Indian stock market. You have to first register yourself. So there are brokerage houses who are registered with Indian stock market. So in turn, they issued participatory notes. And in these participatory notes, these unregistered investors invest. And that's the reason there is an allegation that through participatory notes, black money is converted into white money. Because where it is very difficult to know who is the person who is investing. So through participatory notes, there have been allegations that through Mauritius route or through third party places, black money is invested, right? So P notes. Again, the related question. The chairman of the public sector banks are selected by. We had discussed, right? Triple B, right? Banks Board Bureau. The service area approach was implemented under the purview of service area, a particular area approach, right? It is a skill development. It's employment guarantee scheme, integrated rural development program. It is the lead bank scheme, which adopted service area approach. It identifies certain districts and in those districts, it focuses its attention. In banking, we have discussed, right? Don't worry, those who were not present, so obviously you will study, all right? I'll explain all these things in great details in the class. Otherwise, we have discussed all these things. Okay. We have discussed various types of banks, right? So, okay. It says, which of the following is not included in the assets of a commercial bank in India? What is the year of this question? Has it not been given? Perhaps it has been. Okay. It was, but okay. So, which of the following is not included in the assets? You know that what are the assets and liabilities? Assets and liabilities. So if you understand the functioning of a banking sector or a financial system, what is assets? Something which earns money for you. Something which generates money for you, that is assets. And what is liability? Something which takes money from you. Right? So for a bank, right? How banks earn money? When they make advances, right? They make investments. So when they make investments, they will earn interest. So for them, that is assets. Something which earns money for them happens to be assets. Right? So advances, if you make advance, so obviously you will earn some interest apart from the principal amount. Obviously, you also earn money in investment, money at call and short notice. Obviously, you earn when you offer money at call. So which of the following is not included in the assets of a commercial bank in India? Obviously, deposits. Deposits happens to be liability because deposits are put by the customers and their deposits are in turn invested by banks to earn money, right? How a bank or a financial institution earns money? The difference between deposits and lending. A banking or a financial institution is basically an intermediary, right? It accepts deposit at lower rates and offers loans, advances, invest at higher rates, and the difference is known as profit. It accepts deposit at 5% and offers money at 8%. So what is the difference? Difference is of 3%. And that is the income for the bank or the financial institution. Otherwise, how it will earn? So I'm pretty sure you are aware about the assets and liabilities, though we have discussed in the class. Okay. Let us see this question. Remember, questions have been asked about this masala bonds. It can ask you, what do you understand by masala bonds? So masala bonds are not related with the spices. Masala bonds are a type of bonds which are rupee denominated. It's a unique, right? So these are rupee denominated. These are issued to other investors. So they are known as masala bonds. Okay, so which one of the following is not, remember, not the most likely measure the government RBI takes to stop the slide of the Indian rupee? Slide when the value of money is going down. Getting the point? It means, you see, the question has been manipulated. It means inflation has increased. So I was discussing that when inflation goes up, the value of money goes down. Because, are you getting why people suffer? Especially common people. When inflation goes up, why common people suffer? Because the value of money goes down. Sorry. It was so sudden and that it was a surgical strike. I was caught unaware. Right? Okay. But it's very satisfying too. Okay. So now, so easing conditions related to external commercial borrowing, no. Following an expansionary monetary policy, that would it not follow? Because if already inflation has increased, so what does this mean? The value of money is going down. So again, it will not follow an expansionary because it will further lead to sliding in the value of money. Right? So this is something that it would not. Legal tender money. Do you see that? The governor of RBI gives a legal guarantee. Government of India gives legal guarantee. Right? If you see, right? So which one of the following statements correctly describes the meaning of the legal tender money? When demonetization of money took place, the legal tender of money was withdrawn by the government. Right? So the money which is tendered in courts of law to defray the fee of legal cases, no. It is not. The money which a creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claims. Yes, that sounds very good. But hold on. The bank money in the form of checks, drafts, bills. No, no, no. This is also the metallic money in circulation in a country. All are. But this is something which describes the best. The money which a creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claims. You cannot deny. If somebody pays you, you cannot deny that, no, no, I cannot take it. You have to take it. Otherwise, action can be taken against you unless there are some coins of low value, low denominated. It is not that, I mean, you will take coins of 2 rupees in one bag and go and go to a store and say that I have come to buy your scooty or bicycle. Right? He or she will refuse it. Though for entertainment or for unique purposes, in Jaipur perhaps it was shown that a person had gone there with a bag of money, of coins, and 7 to 8 people were involved in counting that in those coins. It took 5 to 6 hours, and finally they were able to, and finally he was able to buy it in 76,000 or some rupees. But legally he could have denied, because this we have already discussed in the class that coins of low denominations have a limited legal tender. Beyond a certain amount, somebody cannot take. Right? So that is, but generally money which a creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claim. So B would be the option. Okay. Now, what does it say? Capital adequacy ratios, CAR, is the amount that banks have to maintain in the form of their own funds to offset. To offset means to cancel any loss that the banks incur, means suffer, if the account holder fail to repay dues. Right? Capital adequacy norms, this is correct. We have CRR, SLR, these are the norms. There are various norms that various banks maintain under the direction and guidance of RBI. And the second CAR is decided by each individual bank. No. It is decided by the central bank of the country. CRR, SLR are not decided by individual banks. These limits are decided by RBI. So this is incorrect. So only one would be. So A. Right? Okay. Okay. It says the RBI manages and services Government of India securities, right? But not any state government securities. No, it also manages state government securities too, right? So this is incorrect statement. Treasury bills are issued by the Government of India and there are no treasury bills issued by state government. Yes, this is correct, right? Treasury bills offered are issued at a discount from the par value, from the face value. Yes, we have already discussed, this is correct. So we have second and third, that is C. Okay. Again, we had discussed about the major types of banks. It says, what is the purpose of setting up of small finance banks in India? Now, to supply credit to small business units, that's good. Small finance banks, there are certain restrictions with it, especially with the kind of lending, right? And stricter regulatory norms are there. So to supply credit to small business units, to supply credit to small and marginal farmers, that's correct. To encourage young entrepreneurs to set up businesses, particularly in rural areas. Sorry. So to encourage young entrepreneurs, no, the objective, the purpose is not. Right. So first and second. So it would be A. Right. I'm pretty sure the students who are online are also able to understand these points. If any one of you has any issues, just let me know in the comments. Right. Okay. Now, let us see this MPC. It says, which of the following statements are correct regarding the MPC, Monetary Policy Committee? Right? MPC. It decides the RBI's benchmark interest rates. Yes, that is correct. We had discussed that MPC had decided what is the interest rate? 4% plus minus 2%. That is the benchmark of inflation rate, right? It is a 12-member body. No, it's a 6-member. Right, including the Governor of India, is because it functions under, no. It works under Governor of RBI. Right. So only first is correct, second, third are incorrect. So A. Okay. What are the purposes of government sovereign gold bond scheme and gold monetization scheme? Yes, these were major schemes by the Government of India, GOI, right? And this had been brought because India is one of the largest consumers of gold on the earth, right? It imports around more than 80% of gold from outside of the country, right? And we keep on hearing that a number of smuggling methods, and people are caught at various airports, right? Smuggling. So to bring the idle gold lying with the Indian households into the economy, yes, their purposes was to bring it, right? I mean, these schemes were brought in so that the gold which was lying idle in the household, so it could come into the system, and people could also earn interest on them. So the gold which was lying with the households, with the trust, right? Various mandir trusts are there, temple trusts are there. They are lying at the huge piles of gold. So obviously, it was thought that let's bring them so that they could also earn interest. Why should remain it lying, right? So this sovereign gold bond scheme and gold monetization scheme, right? To reduce India's dependence on gold imports. So obviously it will help to reduce the dependence on gold imports, right? So this is also correct. To promote FDI in the gold and jewelry sector, no. Right, their purposes was to reduce India's dependence on gold imports and to bring the idle gold lying, right, in the Indian households in the economy. So 1 and 3rd, that is C. Right. Okay. Now, the establishment of payment banks. Payment banks, we know that there was Paytm Payment Bank, which RBI directed it to be closed because it was found in some fraudulent activities, right? So the mobile telephone companies and supermarket chains that are owned and controlled by residents are eligible to be promoters of payment banks. Yes, they can. Financial inclusion, we know that, including especially the weaker section of the society. So the payment bank has been set up specifically to promote financial inclusion, right? Payment banks can issue both credit cards and debit cards. They can issue debit cards, but they cannot issue credit cards. Payment banks cannot undertake lending activities. This is correct. They cannot also involve in lending activities. We have a number of payment banks like Jio payment banks, Airtel payment banks. We had this, right? So we have also this Paytm, but it was closed, right? Okay, so 1st and 3rd. So it's a B. Okay. Yes, with reference to Bitcoin. These are digital currencies, Bitcoins, right? Now, Bitcoins are tracked by the central banks of the countries. No, that is something, it is very informal, right? So anyone with a Bitcoin address can send and receive Bitcoin from anyone else without a Bitcoin address. Yes, you can it. And that's the reason these Bitcoins are being used by many anti-social elements. And it is one of the measures of money laundering or black money creation. Right? Online payments can be sent without either side knowing the identity of the other. Yes. So 2nd and 3rd. So obviously B. Now, it says when RBI reduces SLR by 50 basis points, which of the following is likely to happen? SLR, you understand? Right. The requirement, the reserve requirement with the banks. Yes. Current price and constant price. In what context? Amrit, can you explain it? Right. You want to know the difference or something? Constant prices are basically which are measured at the base year. Generally, it happens to be the last year. And current includes the current. The rule of inflation is there. So in the current price, the current rate of inflation is included. Right. While in constant price, the rate of inflation of base year is included. I'm pretty sure that this answers your question, Amrit. Right? Yes, Guria is very active. That's very nice. Yes. Okay. Now, okay, so RBI reduces the SLR by 50 basis points. SLR, we know that, right? There are certain reserves that banks are supposed to maintain with themselves. In Sierra, they are supposed to maintain with RBI, central bank, right? So what happens if RBI reduces? So India's GDP growth rate increases drastically. I mean, there is no guarantee. Foreign institutional investors may bring more capital into our country. It's not clear, right? Scheduled commercial banks may cut their lending rates. Yes. Because if you reduce SLR, they will have more money to lend. Right. If they have more money to lend, obviously, a lot of money will be available, so they can cut their lending rates. The money would be cheaper. It may drastically reduce the liquidity to the... No, it will not drastically reduce it. In fact, it will increase. Opposite will happen. So it would be C option. Okay. Okay. It says with reference to Indian economy, consider the following: bank rate, open market operations, public debt, public revenue. Bank rate, bank rate is the long-term rate that RBI provides liquidity, to banks, banking system and financial system, right? Amrit, we have already explained high capital and output ratio. So, right, just go through, I'm pretty sure, high output and high output ratio, right? I mean, if there is high capital and high output ratio, so obviously it shows that the system is not efficient. If you put low capital, small capital, and there is a high output, it shows that it is efficient, right? Because the output though happens to be high, but the capital is also high, right? So it is always better if you put small amount of investment in capital and your output happens to be high, right? So that is considered to be better condition, right? So I think this answers your question. Okay. Now, with reference to Indian economy, consider the following bank rate. So bank rate and open market operations, right, are the components of monetary policy. This public debt and public revenue, they do not come under the component of monetary policy, right? We have discussed all the major tools of monetary policy: bank rate, CRR, SLR, repo rate, reverse repo rate, right? We have discussed quantitative and qualitative ones, right? So what would it be? 1 and 2, and that happens to be C. Okay. Basel norms, right? Basel third accord, or simply Basel third, often seen in the news, seeks to. Basel norms. We have discussed in the class about the Basel norms. Do you remember? Basel norms are basically, what are they? Right. They are related to capital adequacy norms. There is a Basel committee based in Switzerland, right? So it is, right, all the central banks are part to it, right? And they ensure that capital adequacy norms, right? So if financial institution or banking institutions do not have adequate amount of capital with themselves, so if there is a turbulence, if there is a currency crisis, they may go bankrupt. So that's the reason Basel norms makes it compulsory on the part of financial institutions to maintain adequate reserve requirements with themselves, so that they do not face the bank runs like situation. Bank run is a bankruptcy kind of situation when every customer starts running to the bank to withdraw the money, and so the bank faces bank run, right? So Basel norms, right? So Basel 1, 2 and 3rd, right? 1, 2, 3. I mean, as you move on, so it becomes, the regulatory measures becomes more sophisticated. So what does it relate? Develop national strategy for conservation and sustainable use of biological no, obviously not, right? Improve banking sector's ability to deal with financial and economic stress and improve risk management, yes. Reduce the greenhouse gas, no, it has nothing to do. Transfer technology from, no, it has nothing to do, right? So obviously Basel norms are basically capital adequacy norms, and these are designed to improve the financial resilience of banking sector, right? Okay, that's good. Yes, that would be B. Very good. Now, with reference to inflation in India, which of the following statements is correct? Okay. Now, we know that what is inflation when generally there is increase in money supply. Right. So, with reference to inflation in India, which of the following statements is correct? Controlling the inflation in India is the responsibility of the government of India only. It makes this term only makes this statement extreme, right? So this won't be, I mean, there are multiple agencies involved. RBI has no role in controlling the inflation. This is absolutely wrong. I mean, RBI is the highest monetary authority in the country, right? Decreased money circulation helps in controlling the inflation. Money circulation, money supply decreased. If you decrease it, obviously it controls it. Because what is the inflation? Generally, it is believed that when there is an increase in the money supply, So the value of money goes down. And that is inflation, right? So decreased money supply helps in controlling the inflation. This sounds very good. Now let us see, increased money circulation helps in controlling, no, the opposite. It will further increase the problem of inflation. So what it would be? C. C would be the right option, right? Okay. Let's move on. Okay. We have discussed this marginal standing facility rate and NDTL, net demand and time liabilities, right? So it asks that sometimes appearing in the news are used in relation to, obviously, banking operations. You know that NDTL, net demand and time liabilities, it shows the capability of a financial institution to lend money, right? So marginal standing facility rate, it is also a rate when RBI if increases, so obviously the cost of lending money will become costlier, will increase, right? So it relates with the banking operations. Now see the question. Okay. What does it says? It says, in the context of Indian economy, which of the following is our purposes of statutory reserve requirements? Right? There are certain reserve requirements that banks and financial institutions are supposed to maintain with themselves. Right? So, okay. So what are to enable the central bank to control the amount of advances that the banks can create? We know that all these reserve requirements have been made because if you understand the functioning of a banking institution, just a few minutes ago I explained it, how a banks earn money. It accepts deposit at lower rate, suppose at the rate of 6%, and it lends at the higher rates, suppose at 9%. So what is the difference? There is a difference of 3%, and that is the earning of the bank. So there always remains temptation on the part of a bank or a financial institution to lend as much as it is possible, because the more it will lend, the more money it will, the more profit it will earn. So suppose if it gets deposits of rupees 1 lakh, so obviously the more it will give as a lending, the more it will lend, obviously it will earn interest on it of 9%. So if suppose it lends rupees 1 lakh, so what will happen? Suppose 10 people who have invested in total 1 lakh rupee. So 2 or 3 people come and say that since I need money, so give my money. So will the bank be able to return? No, because it has already lent all the money. So it won't be able to return the money to these 2 or 3 people. So obviously they will become enraged. They will become angry that how can you not return my own money? Right? And when other depositors will hear it, all will run that why the bank is not returning the money. So it will be a run-like situation, and banks cannot give the excuse that, look, since you deposited money and I have lent it, so I will ask those people to return money, then I will pay you. So no one will deposit their money in the bank. So that's the reason central bank, that is the chief bank, main bank of the country, which makes certain regulatory requirements that a particular banking or financial institution has to maintain certain amount, right? And there are various reserve requirements in the form of CRR, SLR, and other ones, right? So that because all the banks and financial institutions work on the basis of probability. Getting the point? So if it is not, it won't be the case that if 10 people have deposited 1 lakh rupee in total, so all 10 people will come at the same time. If they will come, then obviously all the banks or financial institution will go bankrupt. So it happens that only 2 or 3 people will come and say that, okay, I need money. So a bank has to pay them. Getting the point? So the all financial, banking, insurance, all works on the issue of probability. Even in the insurance, all insurance, those people who have bought insurance met with some kind of, right, eventuality, and they start claiming. So even the insurance company will go bankrupt, right? So you need to understand. So enable the central bank to control the amount of advances that the banks can create. Yes, this is correct. To make the people deposit with banks safe and liquid. Yes, this is also correct. To prevent the commercial banks from making excessive profits. No, that is not the objective. I mean, if banks can still manage to make profits, that's very good, because everyone is involved in making profit. So there is nothing wrong in this, right? Then we have to force the banks to have sufficient vault cash to meet their day-to-day, right, requirements. Yes, it could be vault cash to meet their day-to-day requirements. Yes, they can, right? But day-to-day requirements, it's not make clear, right? Customers demand, it could be, right? So first and second, if it could be given first and second. If had it given this fourth one, then it could also have been correct. But since it has not been given, so only first and second, so it would be B. Now I'll take a few more minutes, right? I can understand that you people have got tired, right? Right? Okay. Yes, very good, Amrit. Right. Okay, so if the interest rate is decreased, I mean, we have discussed briefly, I'm discussing all this concept because we have discussed all this concept in great details in the class. So there are a number of technicalities which are involved. So there would be some questions that those people who have not studied the conceptual points would find slightly difficult to understand. Right. So those who are online, I can understand. Right. So though I try my best to explain the things. Right. So that you could, it serves your purpose. Okay. So if, what is it? I'll take a few more questions, then we will wind up the session. What is it saying? If the interest rate is decreased in an economy, it will decrease the consumption expenditure in an economy. If the interest rate is decreased, obviously the demand for money will go up, right? So it will not decrease the consumption expenditure. It will in fact increase the tax collection of the government. I mean, how could it be possible? It has nothing to do. Increase the investment expenditure in the economy. Yes, it will increase the investment expenditure because the producers will find it cheaper to borrow. Because when you bring down your interest rate as a bank or a financial institution, so more and more people borrow it. But when you increase it, so people avoid it. Only limited amount of money they will borrow it. if it is very necessary. Increase the total savings. I mean, it has nothing to do with savings. So increase the investment expenditure in the economy. Okay. Now, what does venture capital mean? Venture capital, we know. Venture, there is a phrase venture out. Venture out means the cement department has predicted heavy rain and has requested the fishermen not venture out in the sea. Right? So venture out. So something where there is a risk involved. Right? So a short-term capital provided to industries. No, it's not short-term to industries. A long-term startup capital provided to new entrepreneurs. We keep on hearing this. This is very correct. But let us see other options. Funds provided to industries at times of incurring losses. It is very difficult to find funds during losses. Right? Funds provided for replacement and renovation of industries. No. This B is the correct option. Venture capitalist, we keep on hearing. Right? There is angel investors, venture capitalist. Right? So, I mean, there are technical differences that we have discussed all these things. And what is the difference between them? Okay. Now, this PSL, priority sector lending, by banks in India constitutes the lending to. Right? Priority sector lending, I mean, there is a regulatory measure that certain amount of rate of their lending has to be lent to certain section of the society, especially the weaker. Right? So agriculture sector, micro and small enterprises, weaker sections. So obviously all of the above. Right? So these are the questions that we have discussed. Let us one or two questions let us discuss. Then at 8 o'clock we will wind up, just 2 to 3 more minutes. Okay. What does it says? Now it says, which of the following grants grant direct credit assistance to rural households? RRBs, we know that RRBs have been specifically created to increase the rural prosperity in the country. RRBs were set up, right? And this land development banks have also been to cater to the local needs of the people. This NABARD does not provide direct loans. It is a refinance agency. And we keep on hearing in the news that some people, fraudulent people who send messages that NABARD offers you certain credit, certain amount of credit. And many people who are not aware, they approach it thinking that NABARD provides. Some people are also defrauded in the name of getting credit from RBI also. So in Delhi, its office, many people keep on arriving every day that, okay, we have been promised. Somebody from the bank has called that we will provide you at a very cheap rate, and some amount has been deposited. So a number of people defraud. RBI, the central bank, does not pay. I mean, it does not issues money to industries and individual customers. It is not involved in retail of the making lending, right? So is this NABARD, right? It's a refinancing agency, right? So it would be RRBs and land. So obviously first and third. So it would be C. Okay. Last question. 42. Right. Right. Okay. RBI regulates the commercial banks in matters of liquidity of assets. Liquidity of assets, when you sell off your assets into liquidity form in currency, something which is liquid, I mean, though there is a variety degree of liquidity, right? Gold is more liquid in comparison to a piece of land. A person who has gold can easily get it into converted into currency, but a land owner will have to go through a number of procedures, right? So liquidity of assets, branch expansion, yes, it regulates. Merger of banks, yes. Winding of banks, yes. So D, right? So all this RBI regulates the commercial banks in matters of liquidity of assets, branch expansion, merger of banks, winding of banks, right? So I'm pretty sure that tomorrow we will also have one more session because there are still a few more questions which are left. So we will have the third, that would be perhaps the last class, because I want that each and every question should be thoroughly discussed, though I have tried my best, right? And I'm pretty sure that you must have found today's sessions also very fruitful, right? And those who are not present and have not seen the lecture of the first, so please watch yesterday's lecture too, right? So thank you very much, and let's hope to meet tomorrow too at the same time. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care of you. Stay blessed. Thank you.